Trick number 2, barking on command. This will be an interesting test for my dogs because they're basically taught not to bark because of travel and neighbors and such. So it'll be interesting to teach them how to bark on command. Now, I have 3 dogs, and they're all different as far as how much they bark. Poe is my youngest, and he barks readily. He loves barking. So I don't foresee this being a big issue for him. I think being quiet is going to be more of the issue, but we'll see. The middle one, Card, he doesn't bark very much. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly he picks up on this. Riker is my oldest dog, and he's lived most of his life, 12 years now, with a limit bark. So he shouldn't be overly barky, but he may be apprehensive because he's been taught not to bark. So he may be a little bit apprehensive. As a general rule, I have them bark. I don't really treat a lot on barking, but I will today, just to reinforce that barking is okay when I ask for it. As soon as my dogs understand the command, I will then teach them a quiet command, and I'll explain in the video how I teach quiets. It is a cue that I actually will use in the ring later on. If I'm showing my dog and I see him starting to get hyped up, I can use my cue and it will unhype him, sort of. So here we go. This will be very interesting. In some situations where I know my dog is going to bark, I can use that to actually teach the word bark. So if someone knocks on my door or rings the doorbell and I know my dogs will bark, well, I can set that up so that I can actually use that as a training tool. So, we'll see what we can do during the video. All right, have fun with this.
Ready? Ready? Bark. 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 No. What? 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 Oh, good bark. Good bark. All right. What? Bark. 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 Good boy. He's still not sure if he wants to bark or not. Because I pretty much teach my dogs not to bark. So we're going to give him cookies when he's barking. And then I'm going to teach him a quiet command too. Bark. 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 Oh, he's shaking. Come here. Bark. Good boy. Good boy. Okay. Bark. 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 Good boy. Ready? Bark. Bark. Yay! Good boy. Okay. So when I teach quiet, I'm going to use my hand just like this. And I'm going to go quiet. Quiet. And I'm just taking their muzzle. Remember? That's what Mom used to do to him when he was in his litter. His mom, if he was bad, she'd go up and she'd put her muzzle right over his muzzle. And that meant you're being a bad puppy, knock it off. Okay? So basically, when I teach quiet, I'll go quiet. I'll put my hand over his muzzle, tell him good boy, and then I can give him a cookie. Now, when I get Poe out, Poe is my barker. He is my barker. So he'll be getting more cookies for quiet than he will for barking, because he's probably going to bark readily, where Card is not my barker. So he's going to get a lot of cookies for barking. You can tell that he's still apprehensive about barking, but that's okay. He will learn, won't you? Won't you? Yay! Okay, let's go get the next dog. Come on. Come here. What? Bark. Bark. Good boy. Let out a little bit of noise. Bark. Bark. Good boy. Hey, I'm learning a new trick. He's learning a new trick on top of it. Come here. Bark. 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 What? What? Bark. Good boy. Bark. Bark. Good boy. Bark. Good boy. Bark. 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 Good. Bark. Good boy. Bark. 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 Good boy. Bark. Good boy. Sit. Come here. Bark. Good boy. Bark. Good. Bark. Good boy. Bark. Good boy. Bark. 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 Good boy. Good boy. All right, let's go get Pope. Let's go get Popo. Ready? Bark. 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 Come on. Bark. What? What? Come here. What? Good boy. What? Come here. What? Bark. Bark. Good boy. Good boy. Come here. Bark. No. Bark. Good boy. Bark. Bark. No. Bark. Bark. No. Bark. No. Bark. Good boy. Good bark. Good bark. Oh, get it. You ready? Bark. Bark. Good boy. Bark. Good boy. See, now I have to be careful because he'll start giving me different. So right now he's doing spins. Come here. Bark. What? What? Bark. Good boy. I have to be careful because if he starts giving me a spin and I reward that spin with a bark too much, then guess what I'm reinforcing? Yeah. Come here. Come here. What? Bark. Bark. Yes, good boy. Bark. 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 Good boy. Gave him a little nudge with my toe there. Bark. 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 Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Almost out of cookies. Bark. Bark. Uh-oh. Did you drop it? I think you lost it. Oh. Good boy. Nope. Bark. 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 No. Bark. Good boy. Bark. No. Come here. Bark. Good boy. Yay. So I had to be careful because he's the kind of dog that he's going to start offering me things. And as he offers and barks, he's going to start saying, oh, I'm getting rewarded for that, not the bark. So I have to be careful with him. Plus, don't forget that my dogs are taught not to bark. They're taught a quiet command way early on. Because number one, I don't want to piss off my neighbors with a bunch of barking, but I want them to be able to travel with me and such without excessive barking. He is my worst barker, so I will teach him how to bark on command for the games and the tricks, but he'll also learn quiet, or he'll also relearn quiet in that, in those repetitions. And he'll get reinforced more for quiet than he will for barking at that stage. All right? Good job there, Popo. All right, sometimes dogs bark when they hear a knock on the door, so we're going to try that. Hello? Hey, what you doing over there? They're not falling for it. Okay, to wrap up on teaching bark, find something that your dog likes to bark at. A doorbell, knock on the door, neighbor saying hello. Set up a situation to where you can get them to bark. Cue it, bark. As soon as you know that they're going to bark, you can almost see it getting ready. Sometimes, like what I was doing with Card, is I was exciting him into barking, saying and encouraging him to bark and then praising him for when he does. Now, you can give treats if you want. That's totally fine. I actually give more treats for quiet as opposed to bark, for the simple reason that, you know, when I'm in the ring and stuff, I don't want them barking. I don't want them thinking, oh, I'm getting excited. You need to give me a treat, so I'm going to bark for it. That's why I always give treats for the quiet. So remember, quiet is when I just put my hand on top of the dog's muzzle and I say, quiet. When I see them calm, you can either, you can praise, obviously, but you can also give them a treat if you want to for that. So then that's something that I can use in the ring, because I just give a signal, quiet, if I see them starting to amp up. And then that way
I can get them to quiet without ever really touching them when I'm in the ring, and that's later on in training. So, all right, you have fun with that, and we're going to start on trick number 3, crawling, next.